Okay, episode 14 of Vinland Saga. Spoiler alert. This was rough. Um, this episode was heavy. It started out, it was very religious. And it's very, it was a lot. It started out with a young lady in the snow, English young lady, talking about who gets into heaven and who doesn't, remembering right about her conversation with God. Um, Turns out she stole a ring um, when she had gone into town, and she's really torn up about it. Um, they show the scene of her talking about heaven and hell, or talking about who goes to heaven before the beginning credits. Then they cut to Askeladd's men. Um, Two of them have a deep conversation with the friar, the English friar that they are basically keeping prisoner, who drinks a lot. They had a conversation about love before in a few previous episodes, and they continued it. These two of the men on Askeladd's crew are brothers, and they talk about their love for one another. They don't use the word love, but they talk about how much they trust each other, how much they have each other's back, and how good it feels to be in battle with your brother and know you have somebody who's got your back like that. And they're basically presenting that as the love that the friar or the priest is talking about. And he says, no, that's not exactly what I'm talking about. What you have is great, but he kind of obfuscates. And then they ask him if the alcohol he drinks, because he's always drunk. They ask him if the alcohol he drinks is the reason why. Is it gives him the love that he's talking about. And he tells them, I think he says, I don't even like alcohol, but and he says some other things that are really nebulous if you don't understand where he's coming from, which these guys don't. They're obviously simple people. And at any rate, then they cut, and I might be forgetting some stuff. This episode blew me away emotionally. They show this family, and it's the family of the young lady at the beginning who had stolen the ring or whatever, and they're praying before they eat. And then the young lady leaves out. She says she has to pee, but she goes out and she's just being tortured by the fact that she stole this ring and she's not going to get into heaven because her father had, prayed, and they kind of talked about heaven and hell, bad people going to hell, good people going to heaven, when they were inside praying and getting ready and starting to eat. And, she goes out and she's just like in the snow talking to herself and to God about it, and about how she's just tortured by it. She loves the way, because at one point it looks like she's going to throw the ring, and then she puts it on the other hand instead. And she's like, "Oh my God, I can't take this. It looks just as gorgeous on this hand as it does the other one." And it's kind of a moment of levity before the heaviness. So Askeladd's men are in the snow and they're upset, they're frustrated, and they're like, "We're not going to survive this." And they're like, "Look, we got to stop somewhere." So they see this village, and it's this village where these people were. They go, they break into the village. The young lady's still outside, so she sees all this, but she is not a part of it. They go into the village, ton of kids, and they even say that they're looking around. It's like two or three men going to the house, and they're walking around, and they're like, "We would choose a house with a bunch of kids, and then they're basically like, give me all your food." And they take them out, they round them up, they stack up all the food. And then they go outside, and Askeladd is talking to one of them. One of them asks if anybody speaks their language, and Askeladd does, obviously. And the guy's like, "Please, just leave us half the food we have so we can survive the winter." And Askeladd tells him, "You don't have to worry about that." And he's like, "You mean it?" He's excited. He's like, "I'm going to make sure you never have to worry about another winter again." So Askeladd calls out. It's like, "Hey, is the hole dug?" It's like, "Yeah, we should be able to fit 62 bodies in there." And then he says, "Kill them." And they start hacking away, men, women, children, all 62 of them. And they bury them. And they don't really show anything beyond that other than them burying them. You see the young lady, she witnesses all of this. She walks out into the snow and she starts talking to God, and she asks if her family got to him. Since they're dead, were they able to pass over and get to heaven, basically, is what she was asking. And then she says that clearly I was not good enough to go. That's why I was separated from them. It's a heavy, heavy, heavy episode. If you have any questions about religion and faith, if you're a Christian in particular, this episode will knock you to your knees, I believe. And in any faith, really, all faiths are very similar. There's a very common, any kind of faith, especially Western faiths. But most faiths have some kind of an afterlife or something, and good deeds get you into heaven, or whatever it is that gets you into heaven. Technically, Christians, it's not good deeds; it's faith in Jesus. But it's vicious. Askeladd is cold-blooded, and they're like, I can't think of his name. The prince is the Ragnar, I think his name is. He's like, these are innocent people. And he's like, look, they're gonna die anyway. They're gonna be out here. They're gonna die anyway because we're about to take all their food because we need it. So might as well go ahead and put them out of their misery. He's very just matter of fact about it, and even the young girl says when they were killing all the people, they didn't seem afraid of God's punishment because they were made to fear God's punishment. Even as they were praying for their meal, they talk about their father tells them about hell being full of scary demons, and it scares the people, scares the kids. And the whole idea is to scare them into doing right anyway. You better be ready for this episode. This thing wasn't fun-loving anyway. This episode, whew, it hits you like a ton of bricks. Also of note, before I end this, is when the men were talking about love with the priest or the friar earlier in the episode, they mentioned the battle that they had against Thors, when Thors went through 30 of their men, and then they killed him with arrows, and they find out that he didn't kill anybody. And he had said that, and then he fought him without any weapons, and he said a true warrior doesn't need a sword. Obviously, this struck a chord with the friar. He either knows of Thors, because he asked him, what was this warrior's name? And he was like, I can't tell you. I guess he didn't remember. But the priest was taken by this story, and obviously rocked him. So either he knows Thors, knows of Thors, or just the story itself. Maybe there's a prophecy about somebody. I don't know. We'll find out later. But it was interesting to see the priest's, response to hearing that story, which is a fantastic story anyway, especially once you realize Thors didn't kill anybody. He just did. He incapacitated 30 men with his bare hand. 30 men who had swords and weapons. He incapacitated them with his bare hands without killing any of them, which is amazing, So the legend of Thors grows. It continues, and it continues to grow. And we'll see what that has to do with Vinland Saga in the future as well. Anyway, if you've never seen this episode, be sitting down, because it's going to knock you down if you're not. All right.